Hi, everybody. My name is Regina Bryan, and welcome to the Women of Empowered Living. Oh boy, today I have an extraordinary woman with me. She's just an amazing human being, an inspirational thought leader, and she has such a unique perspective considering her position. I am so thrilled that she's doing the show with me today because I can't wait for you all to meet her. Welcome, Pauline Victoria. Hey, Pauline.
Hi, Regina. Thanks for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. So, where are you joining us from today?
So I am joining you from Chile, Oregon, South Oregon, but I originally live in Hawaii, and people are like, why Oregon? Why are you coming to the mainland in the winter? But where do people in Hawaii vacation? In the snow? So.
Oh, that makes perfect sense. Well, I'm just glad we could take some time from your vacation, from your trip here to the mainland to chat today. So, Pauline, okay, let's just start at the very beginning of your life story because you were born without arms, without legs. Can
Yes.
you share with us what your childhood was like for you and for your family?
So, I mean, you could say that I was quite a surprise to my parents. My parents, they met in the Air Force. My mom is from the Philippines, so I'm first generation Filipino, and my dad is farm bred in Minnesota, German Danish. My mom's 4'11", he's 6'6", so it was quite a difference culturally and height wise. But they met in the Air Force, and they got married, and I was a honeymoon baby, so I was their firstborn child.
How
And of
about that,
course,
a honeymoon baby?
yeah, right. So they got married in November, got pregnant. I was born in August, and as you expect, anyone that's expected a child, no matter how that child comes through, there's always this feeling of excitement and possibility and hope that is born with that child. And so my parents weren't any different. And every test that they had, ultrasounds, everything showed I was going to be perfectly healthy and normal. And unfortunately, that was not the case. Well, I'm going to retract the unfortunately. So my parents found out the day I was born. The doctors found out the day I was born. And back in the 70s when I was born, they actually put the women under anesthesia. And so my mom had no idea what was happening.
Wow.
They told my father first. And when she came to, my father was the one who wanted to tell her. And so he told her. And the reason I'm telling you this story is because it sets the tone, I think, for the way I was raised. And when my mom heard that her baby didn't have 10 toes and 10 fingers, she responded with 4 words. And those 4 words were, "Thy will be done." And
that gave me
goosebumps, right? Yeah. And I can't imagine. I'm a mother myself. I have a son that I gave birth to. And I can't imagine being in such a dark place, being given such what a lot of people would consider tragic information, and responding with such faith and belief and trust in something bigger at play here. And so my parents, even though the doctors try to convince them, because they were not prepared, they did not have the resources, they did not have the skills or the knowledge of raising a child with such extreme disabilities, and they didn't even know at that point what my brain capacity was. They try to convince them to institutionalize me, which was pretty normal back then. And I would say probably pretty normal now.
The 70s. So you're right. It's a far different world being born that way today than in the 70s with no resources. So, gosh, they tried to get your parents to institutionalize you.
Yeah. So my parents, between my mom, who is, full of faith and belief in God, and my dad, who is a very practical person, his mind immediately went to, there's prosthetics, there's wheelchairs, there are things that we can help her to live a full life. And so they just took that and took me home and believed that They could raise me the best way they knew how. And they did an amazing job with this beautiful balance of nurture and tough love. And when I say tough love, what I mean by that is that they created the space for me to really discover what I was truly made of. So one of the earlier examples in my life was that I wanted to sit up, and I was probably maybe 1 or 2 years old, and I was crying and I made a noise like I want help. And my mom went over to help me sit up, and my dad's like, no, held her back. It's like, let's see what she can do. And they allowed me to kick and scream and throw the tantrum and cry, and then figure out how I could sit myself up. And
they allowed you to fail. They allowed you to try, to miss, to get it right, to get it wrong.
Yes, absolutely. And, I think that was one of the best things that they could have done for me. I think it's one of the best things we could do as parents. And I know, like I said, I'm a mom. And so I know how hard that is to see your child suffer, and you can just fix it. But They really did create that space. So I got really comfortable with exploring in the uncomfortable.
What a gift.
It's not easy. Yeah.
What a gift.
Yeah.
And so I guess you took that through that childhood, those teenage years. What were those teen years, those early 20 years like? And I'd imagine that with this confidence that you were able to meet some of those challenges, or what was that like for you?
Well, Regina, and whoever's watching, I think we can all agree that adolescence is tough for everybody. It is not the most fun time of our lives.
Oh gosh, I would never go back. You couldn't pay me to go back.
Never. So I would say that I had the same struggles as most teenagers, plus some, because all you want to do when you're a young teenager, 12, 13, 14, going into high school, all you want to do is belong. All you want to do is blend in, fit in.
So true.
And that was really hard to do with such an extreme different body. And I'm not going to lie, I went through times of depression and suicidal thoughts because I couldn't keep up with everybody else. As my friends were getting their licenses, I was sitting at home watching TGIF, if anyone remembers that, Boy Meets World, watching other people live their lives, right?
Right.
And so, but I couldn't. And I really went through some tough times there. But I got through it because of the foundation that my parents set out for me, which was my unwavering belief in God. And I feel like when we are pushed to our limit and where we don't have any more, I didn't have any more strength, I didn't have any more courage, you kind of have to turn it over to something bigger than yourself and be like,
ooh,
I'm done.
That is so good. You're right, because I would imagine your faith has been just an integral part of your life. Your parents raised you in faith.
Yeah. And I can imagine that's how my mom felt when she had me, I don't know what to do here. I'm at a loss. So in my human capacity, I'm tapped out. I need you to take the wheel. And we're done. So,
faith right there, the true meaning of faith. It's like, I'm handing this over to a power greater and bigger than myself.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's when I really got to forge my relationship with God. And I remember at 15 years old, sitting in church and asking, why me? Of all the 6 billion people in this planet, why did I have to be born like this? Why did I have to carry this? And the response I got was why not you? And
okay. Goosebumps.
Yeah.
Goosebumps again.
Yeah, why not you? And in that moment, I knew that my pain was not in vain, that there was a purpose for it. I may not have been able to see it at the time at 15 years old, but I felt the assurance that it was all going to be okay.
And so when did you discover that you could really do something with your life and to show other people through your challenges, through your situation, that you had a message and something you could share with the rest of us. When did you kind of discover that you wanted to be a speaker, a thought leader, and an agent of change in the lives of others?
Well, you can imagine as I grew up, I kind of got the hint that I had some impact on people. Some of it was off-putting, like 7 years old and a grown man is crying over you, or 14 years old, people, a Japanese woman in Yosemite is approaching and praying over me in her language and crying, and, or people throwing money at me, or, like whatever it is, that I obviously kind of had a hint, like, okay, I have some sort of effect on people. So, but I did not have the courage to own it. And when you have a gift, but you don't own it, when you don't take responsibility for it, then you can't steward it. And you can't use it the way it was created to be used for. And so what I did was understood that I know I have an impact on people. And so I chose to major in broadcast journalism in college and said, okay, well, I can just be on TV and do my thing and report the news, and I can do that. I can use my voice. But I didn't want to have to be responsible for lecturing or telling people about my life. If they found inspiration, great. If they didn't, it's not my problem. And so I didn't own the gift. And I didn't own the gift, even though there were, I love the quote that Oprah says, when life will whisper to you, and if you ignore it, it will scream. Well, life whispered gently to me throughout the years, gave me opportunities to speak. And I was scared. I was really scared of the gift. And when I got my screen at a network marketing conference, because by this time I was a mom, a stay-at-home mom, and stay-at-home moms who also had careers, what do? They join network marketing companies and sell all sorts of stuff. And so that's what I did. I joined a network marketing company, and I went to their annual rah-rah event, and there was Les Brown, who was there to motivate everybody, right? And
wow, the great Les Brown.
Yeah, the great Les Brown. And so I was like, wow, okay, cool. Yeah, this is fun. But probably an hour later, I was in the lobby of the hotel talking on the phone, doing some business, trying to make some sales. And a gentleman comes up to me and he says, I need to talk to you. And I look at him and I'm like, I'm on the phone. And he's like, I need to talk to you right now. And I'm like, oh, okay, 1 second. So I get off the phone and I pay attention, and it's Les Brown. And he says, I'm listening to you speak, and you have a powerful voice. I'd like to invite you and anybody else who wants to come with you in 4 days to my conference in LA, where I teach people how to use the power of their voice.
In 4 days. So he was giving you an invitation that was going to be in 4 days.
Yes. Okay. And I'm in Reno, and I have to go back to San Jose and then drive down to LA. And I have no arms and legs, and I don't have accessible transportation. And then I have to get someone to come with me so they can help me shower and, all basic living needs. And
real logistics.
Yes. Yes. Me and spontaneity, we don't always agree, but you know what, it does scream at you. It's important to answer the call. And I think that's what it took for someone who was at his level to say, I hear you and I see you, and I want to help you own your gift. And then
you were sort of shooing Les Brown away, like, I'm busy, I'm on the phone.
Yeah. Who does that? But apparently I do, because I really didn't know who he was. I wasn't into the personal development or anything of that sort until I started getting involved with him.
I love that story. So what sort of developed from there?
Well, I learned a lot. I started to own my gift. And when you learn under someone as big as Les Brown, and and we were talking on the phone one day, and he's like, oh my gosh, this is how I would tell your story. And he tells my story to me. And I'm like, jaw drop. I'm like, I want to know this person.
Right.
Like that was amazing. Right. And then I had to come to the reality that, wow, that was amazing story that Les Brown told. But I'm not Les Brown. And so understanding that my style, my gift can show up in a different way was really important for me to learn, because I think when we see people that we admire and we just emulate, we forget to honor the uniqueness that our gifts have within our specific talents and skills and all of that good stuff.
That's so important. Good. I mean, well said. You're so right about that. I mean, we're in this community, Empowered Living. A lot of us are coaches and speakers, and we've been trying to tap into our gifts. And I just think that's so well said, the way that you just framed that.
Yeah. And that's why it's so important to have so many different speakers, to have so many different coaches, to have so many different teachers, because someone's going to hear your voice, but not hear mine. Right. And then some people may hear my voice, but not yours. So it's important. So there's always room for everybody. And I'm like, I just, there's only one Les Brown, and respect, like, let's just have respect for that, and then own our gift and live into that.
Oh, I love that. And we've got more professional things. I've got questions and other things. I want to know what you're working on now. I want to back up though, because you are married. And how long have you and your husband been married?
This year will be 19 years. Yeah. 19 years.
And how did you meet your husband?
So you know how they say when the student is ready, the teacher will appear?
Yes.
I think it was similar to that. Like when I was ready, my partner would appear, because so he was a driver for a paratransit company. The paratransit company, yeah. The paratransit company that I would take to work, because I wasn't driving at the time yet. I was still in the process of figuring all that out. But I still had to get to work. I still had to get to appointments. And so he was driving for that paratransit company. And probably literally 3 days before he and I met, I was like, God, if you're calling me to the single life, okay, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with who I am all by myself. And I was completely comfortable and truly meant it, that like, I'm good. I know who I am. And 3 days later, this man is driving me to a job interview at Stanford University. And
wow.
He walks me to the door, and I turned to say goodbye to him. And he said it was as if God lifted the veil from his eyes and he saw me for who I truly was. And he instantly fell in love with me. That was not my side of the story. But it took me a little bit longer.
Here, I need to get your husband in this conversation.
I know. He's camera shy.
You know what? What a blessing. He is your van driver. And it was that first moment when he was walking you to the door, and that's when your eyes met. That's when he knew. Yes.
I turned to say goodbye to him. I tell him it was the eyeliner. Like it must have been the way I put my makeup on that day, but I just turned to say goodbye, and he looked into my eyes, and he was immediately in love with me.
We all love stories. And I just think that just really landed on me. It just really touched my heart when you shared that story with me before. I love that that's how you met your husband. And along the way, you all decided to have a baby. So talk to us about that, because I mean, I'm a stepmom. I never had my own children. And yet this being a mom, being a stepmom, it's not an easy journey.
No.
Please I'm a stepmom too. What that was like.
Yes. I'm a stepmom too. So he's older than me. He had kids from a previous marriage. And so, when I dated him, I was 23 and I stepped into it. And so it's like, you date someone with kids,
Yep.
it's the whole package.
It really is.
Yes, yes. So that has other things that goes on with it. But yeah, we decided, we were married for about 3 years. We were together for about 6. And he was like, I was like 28 years old, and I was starting to get that like biological clock ticking louder and louder. And I'm like, I need a baby. Like, I don't, maybe there's other women that can relate, but like, there's just something that takes over you, and you just like, I have to have a baby. And I'm not saying every woman has that, but that was my experience.
Right.
And so I think I just expressed it once. I'm never one to, like, when we were getting married, I never thought about like, oh, how are we going to get married, and are we going to get married? And I never like, I never pressured him that way. It just isn't my style, I guess. And so I never pressured him about kids, but I did bring it up. And he said, well, if we have them, that's fine. And if we don't have them, that's fine. And I'm like, well,
kind of take it or leave it. That's where he was.
Yeah. And like, that was not enough for me, because I knew if we had a child, he would have to be fully invested in it because of the extra work that he would have to put into it. And so we went to church one day, and we had my little cousin there, and he was holding her, and she was like maybe 2 years old, and he was holding her, and I don't know what happened, but something switched, and he whispered in my ear and leaned over and was like, I think I'm ready. And I'm like, what are you ready for? And he's like, I think I'm ready to have a baby.
Why am I getting teary-eyed when you tell that story?
Yeah. And I just was sitting there in church, and I started crying, and I was just like, oh my God, thank you, God. Like, just trust the process.
And okay, so he's all in, and you make a very good point. This isn't just, I'll have a baby if you want to have a baby. If we do, we do. If we don't, we don't. You needed a husband that was 100% committed because of what it would require him.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I could not do a lukewarm, because I didn't want him ending up resenting me or the baby. Using that like, well, you wanted the baby,
Right.
No.
Oh,
so
wow.
We had what?
No, I was just like, you're absolutely right about this. This is at another level for husbands and wives about having children. This is another level. He had to be committed. He had to be.
Yeah. And I had to be okay with him, like, having the right time to be committed. Like, I couldn't force him to be committed to me or to having a baby. I had to trust that he would come around to that all by himself. Right. And so many times we want to push others to do what we want. And sometimes we just have to step aside and surrender and allow that person to come to where they need to be at their time. And so that is something I practice, and I'm sure we'll get to that. But yeah, so we decided to have a baby. I got pregnant on the first try, and not 10 months, like he was, the 40 weeks later and 4 days, because he was late. I guess I made a very happy home for him in my womb. But yeah, we had him. We had a boy. His name is Aaron. He's now going to be 15 in April.
15.
But yeah, during the pregnancy was great. I didn't have too many issues. But what was a challenge, again, that commitment, I needed him to have that commitment, because after the 5-month mark, when I started showing, and I started getting bigger, my body all changed. So the way I couldn't bend down to eat anymore, I couldn't transfer myself to go to the restroom anymore. I couldn't drive anymore because everything's fit to the size of my body before pre-pregnancy. And so at that point, we were connected 24/7, like at the hip. He would bring me to work. He'd sit there, wait for me if I needed anything, help me, then go back sitting there.
Wow.
Yeah. Commitment.
Next level commitment. Wow.
Yes. And, so I always joke, I'm like, COVID, that's nothing. We can handle being attached at the hip 24/7 for many months. um, so we made it through, and we had the baby. And, you know, I had tried to think about everything about like, okay, how am I going to feed the baby? How am I going to change the baby's diaper? How am I going to hold the baby? And there were a lot of things I could not do for him. And as a mom, you want to nurture your child, right? And you want to nurture them the way you want to nurture them. And he was my first baby. And the reality of it was I couldn't. I breast pumped. So I couldn't breastfeed directly, but I could pump. I couldn't hold him, like cradle him. I ended up holding him as he got older and like a baby Bjorn, like a baby carrier. But I couldn't feed him. I couldn't change his diapers. I could not bathe him. And that was something mentally that I was not prepared for as a mom. Because as someone with my spirit, I could call myself like a warrior spirit. You know, when I set my mind to do something, then nothing can stop me. And I just go after it. But I think with the hormones and then, you know, and just being tired, like there were just things that I can't do. Like I will never climb a mountain. I will never, you know, do certain things. And I've come to terms with that. But as a mother, I couldn't do certain things. And it was really hard to come to terms with that. And probably for about a week after we got home, I did not even want to be next to my baby. I didn't even want to look at him because he reminded me of how disabled I was, and that I couldn't do it. Wow. And yeah, so the hormones and being tired and then having all that on top of me, I just, it's hard to say as a mom. But I think a lot of moms, when they go through that like period of like, I don't even want this. I don't even know like what's happening inside right now. But all I knew is that I just didn't want him.
It's amazing because we think about you and your life and we think about the physical limitations. I'm overwhelmed that you also had to process all of the mental how that would impact you mentally. And then think he is a reminder of what I cannot do.
Yeah.
And that was overcome, I'm sure, because your warrior spirit, your independent nature. How did you guys work through that? Because I know that your family's just everything to you now. How did those early days of his life, those early months and years, how did you meet those challenges?
Well, I knew that feeling that way was not healthy. So I was like, okay, I gotta shift something inside me because this is not good. And I recognized that there was a problem, and I just had to practice surrendering and understand that it was no longer about me. It was about him, my child. And if he was getting fed, if he was getting bathed, if he was getting changed, did it really matter that it was me that did it or that it just got done? And so that was something that I shifted my perspective and focused on, that it wasn't about me. I got out of the way and made it about him. And so that took a lot of pressure off of me of feeling inadequate as a mom. And so my family is amazing. Like when my husband and I were dating, people were like, "Oh, you want to date him? He has kids, he's divorced, and a lot of baggage." And when I met him, when we started dating, he said, "All I want to do in life is to make you happy." So it's like,
he's a keeper. He's a keeper.
Right. Right. So it's like, okay, well, I don't know how much better I can get, regardless of how much baggage there may or may not be. Right. Because, that's the goal of every woman.
That's so true. I love the stories about your husband, your son, and that it's been 19 years. So this warrior mindset, this driven, independent spirit has not just translated in your own life, but you use it in business.
Yeah. So I created I did the speaking thing, but I did it during a time when my son was really young and it was really hard to be away from him. So I put that on the back burner for a while. but I really love video. And it was put on my heart to help disabled people see themselves in a different way, to know their worth, to know their value. And I created a media company called One Leg Up Productions. So
One Leg Up Productions.
Yeah, I do have one little leg. So, I love my play on words. One leg up literally and figuratively, because you were pioneering the way. And so I did create that, but in 2020, like the word of the year was probably pivot for a lot of entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
And I feel like I accidentally happened on realizing that I actually have a gift for helping people get unstuck, to help them adopt that warrior spirit, that mindset of being unstoppable, and helping entrepreneurs take action instead of getting paralyzed by fear or perfection or procrastination, whatever it is that's stopping them. And so the One Leg Up Productions was created. It's going, it's beautiful. There's a great community. So if anyone who is disabled with a physical disability would like to join a community, I have a Facebook group called Crip Chat Club via Zoom, and we meet every week and we have conversations. But then I also created, with realizing this other gift that I have, that it goes beyond disability. Our mindset has nothing to do with our physicality. It's all about the mental and emotional game that we play. And so I created a Facebook group called Made for More, for heart-centered. Yes, made for more. You are made for more. No matter how you come into this world, no matter what your background is, I truly believe that we are made for more. And that if people want to take a stand for having a different future, having a different life, being able to impact people in a big way, I want to help them get there. And so Made for More Facebook group, it's free. I'll be eventually soon be launching something if people want to get more involved and work with me directly, but that would be a good place for people to start.
That is a good place. We can find you on the Made for More Facebook group. Pauline, you're just a gift. Knowing you this short time, having a phone call with you, and then today's conversation, you have blessed me tremendously. Just your story, your spirit, who you are, has just had such an impact on me. So you're right, you have an impact on people. And I know that the audience watching today feels the same way. And we love to ask all of our guests our favorite question around here. What does an empowered life mean to you? If you'd share that with us.
Well, I think if you take the word empowered or empower apart, like in power, like you're in your power, and you're not afraid of it. You're owning it. You're stepping into it, and you're stepping into it not only for yourself, but to be to have a ripple effect on people around you. And I think for me, to live an empowered life, to be able to say, yes, I own my power, I step into my power, and I use that power to wield good and make a difference in people's lives, then I think that would be what I would want to emulate as someone who's empowered.
You are an extraordinary human being, and I am just amazed by you. You make me less afraid. You make me want to step out. And I think if I feel that way, I know our audience is feeling that way too. What an inspiration you've made on us, Pauline Victoria. I cannot thank you enough for taking time to be on the show today.
Thank you, Regina. I so appreciate it. I so appreciate the opportunity to speak into your life and to others.
You sure did. Thank you so much, Pauline. And thanks so much for everybody watching today. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.